Welcome back. As you know, today we're talking about faith-based recovery, and our next guest is Steve McCracken. Steve has dedicated his life to help men overcome addiction, and he's the founder of Shepherd's Fold Ministry in Cardwell, Missouri. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Well, sure. First of all, what I'd like to know is what made you decide to help men that are struggling with chemical addiction?
Well, I guess it first started back in '06. My wife went through a similar program, and I had a lot of opportunity to be hands-on, a lot of visibility in that ministry, and I kept seeing these women come in and totally become productive and actually change their patterns, only to return home or to a non-productive environment with their husband or boyfriend still using. And I recognized that something needed to be offered for the men of our communities.
Great. Over the past couple of years, what kind of demand have you seen as far as like in Southeast Missouri, Northeast Arkansas for programs like Shepherd's Fold Ministry?
There's a great demand, and I don't think we should narrow it to specific locations. The demand is great wherever you are. Here, as of late, I think there's been an increase in demand for the need for this type facility, faith-based.
Do you think that's connection with the epidemic levels of prescription addiction that we've been hearing about in the news?
I think that has a lot to do with it. I've seen a lot of influx of guys coming in who had the addiction to the opiates, hydrocodone, things like that. I personally think that's on the rise.
Now, I take it within the ministry, it's not really limited to substance. It's more about addiction and dealing with that type of issue. Is that correct?
That's right. It's not so much the substance as it is the whole makeup of the addiction itself. I mean, it's a sickness, it's an illness, and it's something that needs to be addressed as such. It's not so much a chemical as it is a way of living.
Well, I'm glad you said that because, I've seen different faith-based programs, and some of them claim that God alone will cure this problem, and then there's other programs that actually implement life skill programs and actually some medical, help within these organizations. Can you tell us a little bit about Shepherd's Fold Ministry?
Well, Shepherd's Fold, our firm belief is that Jesus Christ is the only lasting solution to any life-controlling issue. But that has to be, it has to have a counterpart of different coping skills, new ways of thinking, ways of dealing with things. Like I said, we offer life skills and just life management that kind of helps train the guys just to seek alternative measures, as far as ways of thinking.
How long is it a residential program?
It's residential. Our program's actually 12 months long. It's made up of 8 months in-house, followed by 4 months of aftercare.
And can you tell me a little bit about, I'm sure it costs thousands of dollars a month if you're housing men over a long period of time. How do you meet your cost operation expenses?
Well, we've got a program called Friends of the Fold, and it's set up for people who want to give monthly to our program. And actually, you're not so much sowing into Shepherd's Fold Ministry as you are sowing into the lives of the men we serve. We also have private sponsors. We have people, church sponsors. But one thing that we do that kind of sets us apart is we're a very active ministry. We're always doing some fundraising, selling Boston Butts, Zaxby's fundraisers, Chick-fil-A anything and everything God allows us the opportunity to do, we get out and do. We utilize our faith, but we also utilize our common sense that God gave us, and we put our hands to work also.
So you're really not getting handouts from the government. You base your ability to operate on the communities. Is that right?
Absolutely. We are not state-funded, government-funded in any shape, form, or fashion. We solely and totally depend on God to move on the hearts of His people.
Okay. Now, Steve, there's plenty of statistics out there and studies about addiction nowadays. I mean, it's been going on so long, and we're into different generations of it at this point. But there are some studies that say less than 10% of the people, and we're talking like millions of people, less than 10% will actually seek out to get help for their chemical addiction problems because of the stigma and discrimination associated with that. When you go into communities, do you ever run into those type of problems?
We do run into that, and I think a lot of it, Skip, is because people just don't understand. There's such a stigma about addiction, and some people think that it's it's an economic thing, but it's not. Addiction is no respecter of persons. It's something that that will affect anybody. And sadly enough, we don't get enough involvement from the community simply because it hasn't fallen on their doorstep yet.
Well, that's going to change with the epidemic numbers we've been looking at lately. You know, as a matter of fact, the American Society of Addiction Medicine announced last summer that chemical addiction was a chronic primary illness. And so I've been having trouble wondering why people are still have this discrimination and stigma problem with it. Do you get any help from the medical communities in the communities where you're located?
That's something that we're currently working on. We've been trying to build a relationship with the medical community for some time, as far as volunteer from the doctors, dentists, what have you. I think the medical community itself is starting to see the benefits from faith-based facilities, more of a lasting result. I think the numbers just speak for themselves.
Well, and I take initially you're trying to get your men in a position to restore their lives and their families and so forth, where they can transfer back or transition back into the communities. What do y'all do at Shepherd's Fold to try to promote that?
Well, Shepherd's Fold, we specifically target the men. And the reason we do that is because men are the main provider of the household in most homes. We empower the men. We want to help them become empowered as far as education. If they come in and they don't have a GED or the equivalent, we help them attain that. It's about making men more empowered to be that provider. There's more to being a provider, more than just putting food on the table. So,
well, it's about leading the family, and if you can't stand up yourself, it's kind of hard to lead a family, isn't it? Mm-hmm. We have a hotline where we get a lot of calls from around the country and asking for referrals and so forth, and so I'm so proud to have you on our show today. One of the biggest, I get two questions. One is, how do I detox somebody? And the other one, of course, is, what does it take to get into a place like Shepherd's Fold? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, as far as the detox, there are a few places in our community that provide that service. Quite expensive, and that's usually a deterrent for a lot of people who need the detox, is the expense. But as far as getting in Shepherd's Fold, it just takes a phone call. They can get our number on our website, shepherdsfoldministry.org. They can give us a call, 573-654-2280, and we'll be glad to talk to them.
Great. Well, listen, Steve, thank you so much for joining us today. Keep up the great work. Your ministry is really restoring a lot of lives out there, and it's like a ripple effect throughout the community when we see people in recovery and being able to resolve a lot of these issues. So thank you. If you want to learn more about Shepherd's Fold Ministry, then just please visit their website, shepherdsfoldministry.org. Go there and check them out and see what God's doing in the lives of the men there. Thank you again, Steve, for joining us.